Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Hey, this is part three of healthcare in the Philippines because it's radically different than in the US. Today, we're going to go through how do you pick your doctor? How do you, what do you do to see that you're getting a good doctor? Well, let's get started.
I never got it, why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, cause I got no chance, no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
You know, picking a doctor or selecting a doctor is not like going to the grocery store and buying a head of lettuce or thumping the cantaloupe. In fact, it's very complicated. And I will tell you right now that some of this will work, some of it will not, some of it will apply because it depends on where you live and the expertise and technology utilized in that area. So let's take a look at some of the basics first. Number one, you need to make sure of a couple of different things. Now, I'm going to give you the basics and you can extrapolate on that as much as you want. But you need to have a general medicine guy, internal med, guy or girl. Okay? They're like a gatekeeper and they're much more valuable than you actually think they are. Now, this can be a family medicine guy, girl, but either way, they are the absolute gatekeeper. They're the ones that are going to help you stay coordinated in your continuity of care. They're the ones that are going to do your annual physical. They're the ones you're going to go to when you're not feeling particularly well. And they've got all and everything at their fingertips. So, what kind of questions do you ask them? And this is kind of important because you may not realize this, but when a physician graduates from their particular residency, and residencies can vary from 1 to 6 years after medical school. Once they do that, they actually can practice any medicine they want, unless the government has stipulations that they have to be subspecialized. Okay. Now there are some really valid checkpoints in that. But the first thing you want to find out is my doctor board certified in anything? And they should answer that question very easily. These questions that I'm going to give you are not questions that your physician should feel bad or hesitate with you and dislike you as a patient for asking. In fact, most physicians like these questions because it shows that you are becoming involved in your health care and that you are not just walking away and doing things hither tither. So, first off, are they board certified? Okay. Then, secondly, are they fellowship trained? So, you can have a board certification in a particular area of medicine, and then you can do a fellowship in a subspecialized part of that even subspecialty. So it's kind of like subspecialized. In fact, in the United States, we have what are called CAQs, which, well, I'm not even going to get into it because they don't do CAQs here to the best of my knowledge. All right. So are they board certified and are they fellowship trained? That's the biggest first question. The second question is going to be, where are you on staff? Where do you have staff privileges? Because if they don't have staff privileges at the hospital that you want them to use, that you are most comfortable with, well, they can't do rounds. They can't come see you. They can't speak anything about medicine or order medicine within that hospital or perform medical services in that hospital unless they are on staff. So you need to find out, where are you on staff at? Where do you have privileges? Okay. Then you want to make sure that those privileges actually correspond to what they're doing for you. The next thing you want to ask them is do you use an EMR? An EMR is an electronic medical record. Now, there are probably 10 best practices medical EMR platforms in the world. And I will guarantee you that every one of those has been reverse engineered by the Chinese and the Indians. And so there are a lot of off case. And how they work, I got no idea. All right. But at least maybe there's an effort there. The next question you want to ask is can I access my EMR off-site? In other words, can I get into my electronic medical record, review my previous labs, histories, whatever, online? Because that's going to give you an idea as to actually just how high a level of an EMR that is, what its abilities are. Finally, you go to the last question, and that is, hey, does your EMR interface with the hospital you have privileges at? Do they interface with each other? Do they talk to each other? Okay? These things, you're often going to hit big roadblocks on that. And that's because the Philippines does not have mandatory coding when it comes to the EMR. So in the U.S., there's mandatory fields within an EMR that are identical. So first name means first name, and that maps to the appropriate spot from the EMR into the hospital or from the hospital into your physician's EMR. This is all about continuity of care. But so let's get down to the technical expertise. I have known many Filipino physicians, and I have worked with many Filipino physicians, trained in the U.S., trained in the Philippines, FMG, Foreign Medical Graduate, all right? And it's not any different than in the U.S. I don't want to burst your bubble, all right? Doctors are not gods. There are stupid damn doctors out there. There are doctors out there that I would not let treat my dog. Actually, I wouldn't let most doctors treat my dog. They're not vets, but you get the idea as to how I feel about it. All right. So FMGs in the U.S., just so you know, here's how that kind of works so that you can get an idea. FMGs in the U.S. go through what's called the STEP program. So they'll graduate here in the Philippines. They'll get into and when I say graduate, I mean they're completely done with their medical training. They're board certified here. Then they go to the U.S. and they have to do a STEP program. And I'm not going to go into the specifics. It's boring. It's long. Doesn't matter. Well, If your physician has done any board certification, that's great. Do they continue to stay board certified? And then you're going to come across doctors that are not on staff. And this is becoming more and more prevalent, even in the US, where you find what's called a hospitalists. And to make a long story short, it's a money saving program for the hospital and a money revenue program for the hospital. And the doctor doesn't have to be on call because the hospital has people on call, all right, that they own. They own those doctors. So, does your physician that you're picking, do they have privileges? Can they electronically interface your records so that when they're making rounds, they can look at their office notes as well as the hospital notes? Are they board certified? Are they fellowship trained? Where were they fellowship trained? Okay. These things are going to help you pick the right doctor. Now, I'm going to tell you what not to pick. Do never, 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 under any circumstances, pick a primary care physician that's related to you or your family here in the Philippines. It's highly advised not to do that in the US, and it is absolutely advised not to do it here. Secondly, if your doctor has any bullshit method of answering these questions, if you can't communicate with your doctor, move on. Don't do it. So these are the basics on how you pick a doctor. You've got to be able to communicate. You've got to know that they're educated. You've got to know that they're trained. And if they're not on staff, because in the U.S. you can check this, but here you cannot. If they are not on staff at a hospital, a reputable hospital, that's a big red flag for me. And the reason is because hospitals here have strict criteria, very much like hospitals in the U.S. And if you use one of those JACO hospitals, their criteria for a physician being on staff means that annually they must submit all of their continuing medical education. Annually, they must submit all and any exposure to malpractice. These things are important because there's no way for you to easily track those things down. So if your doctor's not on staff at a reputable hospital, that's a red flag. If your doctor cannot talk to you, communicate with you, or seems hesitant to do so, that's an issue. All right? Finally, if your doctor cannot communicate with the hospital that they're on staff at, I would worry about it. But I would, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Interfacing software programs from outside of firewalls is very, very security IT heavy, and many people here in the Philippines do not have that ability. So, look, if you found this informative, that's great. We'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that thumbs up. If you aren't subscribed, we'd really appreciate you subscribing. And then I'm going to tell you, we're going to go through TRICARE and VA next, because that seems to be a really big topic with all the retired military dependents here in the Philippines. And it is not like in the U.S. at all. And we're going to save you a little bit of trouble with that. Oh, one more thing, a little added bonus, okay? When you talk to your doctor's office and you're asking them these questions, Ask them if they will get, if you have an insurance plan that you expect will either reimburse you or pay here. Ask them who's going to get pre authorization. And we're going to cover that pre authorization, VA, and TRICARE in the very next section. Thanks so much. Have a great day.